Hi, my name is Brittni Cosgrove, and I'm a transformational life and business coach, and I'm excited to share a soulful self-care conversation.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Sharenza with Women's Successful Living, and I am on with another episode of our Soulful Self-Care Conversation. And this has been so much fun, changing over the name from Conversations with Pearl to really helping you understand the type of conversations that we're having together. And it's really not my conversation. It's a conversation I'm having with these amazing guests that I bring on, that I hope that as you sit and you have a cup of tea, or you're driving along and listening, or hanging out with your best friend, that you guys can take away some really great tips to understand that life doesn't always go like a bowl of chocolates, as they say, that you're not always in balance. But if you can find harmony with life and put some self-care in there, you're going to get a lot out of your life. And so today is no different. Today, I have an amazing guest. Her name is Brittni Cosgrove, and she is a transformational life coach. She helps high achievers become their most magnetic, authentic, and confident self, so they can create bigger impacts doing what they love. And we all need to be doing what we love. Life gets too busy and too crazy. So whether you're scaling your business, starting a nonprofit, or deepening your relationships, Brittni's going to help you rewire your subconscious and master your mindset so you can stop self-sabotaging and see the results you crave. Because your mind is your best friend, you guys, but it's also your worst enemy. So we're going to talk about some of that today. We're going to talk about Brittni's SHERO story, and I'm just so excited to have her join us. So Brittni, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of fun. If you're new to the show and you haven't listened to us before, we always do this really fun thing. And if you're a repeat subscriber, here it comes. Brittni, when you were a little girl, we all had these dreams of what we wanted to be when we grow up, right? We want to be an astronaut. We want to be, a mom staying at home. We want to be a business owner. We just want to work that 9 to 5, whatever that dream was for us. Or maybe you want to be the president, the first female president of the US. But whatever that was, right? We grow up with these great dreams we have. And then, of course, adulthood comes. We got to go off to school, whatever that looks like for us as we hit those adult years. So sometimes we forget that the little girl inside had this dream of doing these things. But sometimes if we really take a audit of our life, we realize we're really kind of doing something along the lines of what that little girl wanted. It's just different than what she was envisioning, right? It's somewhat similar, but just a little different. And so I want to ask you, Brittni, what was little girl Brittni, when you look back, what was her goal? What does she want to be when she grows up? And what is big girl Brittni doing today? And how do they coincide together?
Oh, I love this. It's so funny because I think I learned the word career, when I was 6 or 7 or so. And I was obsessed. I've always been that work oriented, very self motivated. And when I was little, I actually wanted to be a criminologist. And I loved like true crime, and I loved just justice and, kind of putting puzzle pieces together, and the creative thinking that goes into problem solving is really what was the nitty gritty of it. Because plot twist, fast forward a couple decades, and I am not a criminologist, but I'm actually in the life coaching world. And so I think that the bridge was really finding what is your true north, like why do you want what you want, and getting to the root of that. And when I found that, the things I love are when I get to use my creative mind and help people and help others solve problems and help others overcome challenges and help people find closure with things that quote unquote shouldn't have happened. And really, I think those are a lot of intentions that I had no idea when I was little, but are really what carried through into how I operate today, both on a personal level, but then also on a professional level, and really helping people with overcoming the doubts and judgments of others. So that's something that I did experience, was having such a unique career choice for a little girl. I faced a lot of people that said, "Oh, you're too happy, you're too bubbly for that industry, for that job." And that did get into my head, and it did fuel doubts and imposter syndrome, and made me question, like, maybe I don't know what I want. And I lost that self authority of really owning what it was that I wanted. And so when I overcame that, I realized just how easy it is for other people's thoughts and opinions to fuel how we operate. And breaking free from that is really one of the best things we can ever do for ourselves, because now I always hold space for people's opinions, but they don't get to influence how I run my life, how I run my business, or anything like that. And that right there is so powerful.
I love that you share that because I'm going to talk about the other people's thoughts. I call it OPT, other people's thoughts. I call it OPT, but I love that you said that because we often, that's what happens. Like, so if you're listening to us and you have little ones at home, what you say to your littles is going to shape them for their life, right? So if you're telling them to go sit in the corner or, oh, that's not what you should be thinking. That's not really, you are actually shutting down the thoughts. You're telling somebody go sit in the corner. Your voice doesn't matter, right? So as we grow up, we start thinking those thoughts that become real for us. That little girl, as we get older, like you're describing, that people telling us, like, you're like me, I'm very bubbly, outgoing, but I'm also very emotional. And I remember, and Jim, if you're listening, I'm calling you out, but I remember Jim, I'm not supposed to call him my boss, but I still call him today my boss. Like, I spent 20 years with him. He taught me how to be a great team leader. But one of the things he would tell me is like, you get so emotional. Like, I would go in a room, he'd call me in the office. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble, right? And I'd start already like being the tears kind of start to come, right? And so he would remind me that, listen, don't let other people's thoughts get in your head. Don't let what other people think stop you from being the great person you are. Like for me back then, 20 years ago, probably almost 30 years ago, it was about becoming this loan officer. I was going to be, taking over an office. And I was 8 months pregnant, and my loan officer that was working, as I was a processor at the time, that I was going to be taken over the office he was working at because he was no longer going to be at that office. And so I came home from going to New York for our baby shower to come home, and one of my other loan officers is gone. And so I have one in the office, and Jim was like, you need to go be a loan officer. I'm like, no, I can't do that. He's like, you're letting thoughts get in your way of the great thing you can do. Right. And it's like, oh, it's so true. Because growing up, it was, you can't do that. I need you to do this. Right. My dad did 3 tours in Vietnam. So I needed to be the babysitter. In 3rd grade, I became this person taking care of others. I learned that I had to take care of others very, very early on. So it's carried with me. So to break that mold, as like you were saying, it's been hard work. And to be honest with you, Brittni, and if you're listening to us, it's never too late to start releasing the people pleasing, because I didn't start releasing people pleasing till 2015, when my oldest son was a senior in high school. Like, that's how long it took me to really get into it. We had tried for 10 years to have kids, so we had kids late. But I was like, oh my gosh, I have to change, because I wasn't happy. I was stressed out. I was waking up and I was wearing all the titles, PTA volunteer, sports mom, whatever that was, but I didn't know who Pro was, So I went through this journey, as you said, like going, what do I want to do? And like you said, I used to just do health and wellness, and I started having clients say, hey, Pro, you're such a great person. Like, when I come in and tell you I ate this cupcake, you didn't be like, well, why did you eat the cupcake? You were like, so tell me about what was happening that led you to want to choose the cupcake. I really was like talking about the mindset, right? And so they started asking me to talk to their friends, and I was like, okay. So as I was doing this, I was also on this journey to figure out what, who Pro is. And I realized I wasn't alone, that many of us women, especially, we want to be these people pleasers. We want to take care of everybody. And part of it is, like you were saying, let's go back to the little Brittni. Part of it is, it's also generational. I'm turned 60 last year. I can tell you my granny, she took care of everybody at home and did everything for everybody. We would go be up there with her. My dad was off at war. And so she was also taking care of us. Then my mom, when my mom and my dad got a place, my dad still was in a service. So she's like trying to run the house. She has to work. So she's trying to, balance everything. And then my generation comes, we're like, I don't want to be the one that takes care of everybody, but I kind of feel like I have to, because my 2 past generations tell me that's what we're supposed to do. Right. And so my goal, having 2 boys, was I want to empower my kids, especially, I had the boys, to understand that women don't have to do everything for you. Because as I was going on this journey to figure out who I was finding that's our thought, that we have to. So we have to change it and go through that. And I know, one of the things that I ask, to those that are listening, one of the things I always ask my guests is, tell me about your SHERO journey. Like, how did your SHERO journey change your life? And I know that, like, you share with your SHERO journey, 2020 was pretty pivotal for you, not just because of COVID. Like, I know that you share that also brought up a chance to do an audit of your life and, what you wanted internally for yourself and what was presenting outwardly versus what was happening inwardly. And I would love you would just kind of walk us on that journey a little bit. And then also tie in from there, how do you see and help your clients when you see that show up for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I shared, I was career oriented from a very young age. And this was amazing because it fueled a very authentic ambition. And was I was a visionary from a very young age. I saw big things I want to do, create big impact. But with that came a very high level of perfectionism and severe anxiety that was fueled by that perfectionism. And that started when I was very, very young. And so by the time I got to my young adult years, I had all of the achievements. I had all of the things that looked perfect on paper, the perfect relationship, the perfect life, all of these things I was presenting as very happy and bubbly. And yet on the inside, I was a complete mess. And it actually got to the point where the anxiety was so bad that every single morning I would wake up and the first thing I would do was go throw up. And I thought that was normal. It had been such a part of my life for so long that I didn't realize that that wasn't supposed to be how it goes. And so in 2020, just like when everything else slowed down and kind of came to a stop, so did my life. And it did give me that opportunity for the first time since I ever remembered, where I was able to slow down and really just look at, what am I doing? Who am I surrounded by? What do I want? And it was in that year that I started my first online business. And that was when I really fell in love with entrepreneurship and creating something that was for me and finding a use for that motivation I have had since I was little. I was finally able to funnel into something that I was loving and proud of and was for something that I had a vision of for the future. That first business wasn't the end all be all, but it did get me in tune with, what does it look like and what does it feel like to run a business and to be in this kind of creative CEO empowered place. And so at the end of 2020, I was actually looking for resources on how to grow my business. And that was when I found the coaching industry. And it was one of those things where I was listening to this other coach speak on a podcast. And I think this is why podcasting is so near and dear to my heart, is because that was how I found where I am now. So I was listening to this podcast, and everything she was talking about was looking at the root of blocks, not just looking at the surface level things like procrastination or the self-doubt, but really getting to the root of, why is it there? What created it in the first place? How can you heal it so that it doesn't hold you back moving forward? And everything just felt so in tune with what I wanted. It was all about helping people with a focus on goals and healing to move forward and empowerment to make a difference, and all of these combinations. And it was the next year in 2021 that I began studying life coaching techniques and went through my first certification program. And it was a very inside out approach. So as I was learning, what does it take to be a coach, I was embodying being coached. And that was when I went through a massive healing journey. And by doing different things like inner child work and subconscious reprogramming, and working on the mindset, I was able to actually heal that anxiety that had been with me since I was maybe 5, maybe 6. And it was something where I didn't even realize it was possible for it to be healed until I was on the other side and feeling this like spaciousness in my body and in my life, and not feeling this gripping, strangling feeling 24/7 was in itself the most liberating thing I to this day that I've ever experienced. Just for context, before that work, when I was thriving and just living my best life and in my best elements, my anxiety was sitting around an 8 out of 10. After a couple months of really diving internally and doing this deep, deep work, I was able to move that set point from that 8 out of 10 down to a 3 or 4 out of 10 on my worst days. Massive difference, massive shift, just complete transformation, the actual definition of transformation. And so that's what I bring forward now is it's not just about what we do because everyone has different goals, everyone has different directions that they want to take their life, but it's how do you go inward to heal the things that are holding yourself back, the self-sabotaging patterns, the self-doubt, the things that we believe about ourselves and what we're possible of that keep us stuck with glass ceilings. My favorite tools are things like subconscious rewiring and mindset work because they are just so powerful. You were talking about, when we're little, adults don't realize what we're soaking in. But the thing is, with like the subconscious, it is primarily developed by the age of 7. And then it goes on to be how we operate, 95% of our life in adulthood. And so when we don't realize the things from our younger years that created different neural pathways and belief systems, without realizing that, we still unconsciously live from those beliefs that do hold us back. And that's what I help people with is uncovering not only what are the surface level things that are pointing towards a deeper problem, but really going in and seeing what is this block? What is it looking for? It's a very compassion based, acceptance based approach so that we're working with the blocks, not trying to push them away. They're not in the way, they are the way.
There's so much to unpack there. I was just like going, wow. I mean, and what you were saying too is our thoughts become who we are. Like we allow, just like we were talking about other people's thoughts, when we allow those thoughts to get in, then we start believing them, then they start, causing us like our health, like you were talking about your anxiety was an 8 out of 10, our health starts to suffer. But not only does our health suffer, if you are, somebody who has a partner or you have kids or, your relationships start to suffer, whether it's a relationship with somebody in your family or a relationship with work or your business, all of that shows up, because our thoughts start to become real because we start believing them if we don't work on releasing them. And a lot of times it is inner child. And every time I bring up inner child, I kind of chuckle inside because I have this amazing group. It's called the SHERO League. And so the SHERO League was started during COVID, during the time that you're talking about, all this was coming up for you, right? I was seeing where women, just like you were describing, they're like at home going, oh, what have I been doing all my life? Do I really want to do what I've been doing? Like after the shutdown, do I really want to go back working my 9 to 5? Do I want to start a business? Do I love my business? Do I want to close my business? Like, or am I happy being a mom? Am I happy in my relationship, with my spouse? Because, oh my God, now my kids are home all day long with me and my partner, my spouse is at home. I called it, I need a Calgon take me away moment, but I'm not allowed to leave my house. So no matter where you go in your house, somebody was going to find you, right? And so I started watching this starting to like really brew online and like really take, a lot of traction. And I was like, what can I do? Again, that people please on me was coming out going, what can I do to help? Right. And I started this 30-day self-care challenge. It's like, okay, for 30 days, we're going to do something. I would post, if you want to join, you can join us. I would post in there. And then that way we can, get started right away on it. And it was so interesting because as I was doing that, I found that so many women were resonated like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to be, I want to be I don't want to be here. I want to change, So at the end of the 30 days, we're like, what are we going to do? So I said, let's just create a group. So we started this SHERO League and it stands for Strong, Happy, Empowered, Radiant, and Original Self. And so to today, I mean, here we are almost 4 years later, we still meet every Sunday evening, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. It is a membership based. You can come visit us once. So if you're listening, at the bottom of the screen, you'll learn how you can learn more about our SHERO League. But it's become this really great thing where we do it on Sunday still today because it was like, it's a great way to end the week. It's a great way to launch your week. We celebrate the wins. We help with the challenges and everything in between. And it's like, we have things we discuss, finances, and, all different areas of your life. But sometimes I can come in and I can have a goal of what we're going to learn that day. But because somebody's had something that we need to pour into them, we sit there for an hour, we pour into somebody. It's that support, because it releases the anxiety. Because like you said, our resetting our mindset is so powerful. And when we were in this group, I wanted to do the inner child. And everyone's like, well, I didn't have any problem with my child. I'm like, don't tell me. Everybody has something. So if you're listening to us, I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with you. We've all had something someone said, did, or happened to us that has affected our mindset somewhere in our adult life. And if you really sat down and you did deep work, if you really reach out to like myself or reach out to Brittni, through the deep work, you're going to find it. And you'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that's why I do this, or that's why I behave that way. I didn't realize that's why I tell myself this, or I believe that about me. And so when you do that and you start, like you said, start rewiring, you can fix your health. You can you can take your anxiety, like Brittni is saying, take it down to, a 3 or 4 out of 10. The one thing I tell my clients when I work with them, like they'll come to me after working with other coaches and I'll be like, why do you want to work with me? And they're like, because you're real. I follow you on social media. You don't sugarcoat anything. I talk about the loss of my son. I talk about the divorcing of my parents. I talk about the real stuff. And I talk about the fun stuff too that I do in my life, and I'm like, so why so different? I said, because my other coaches that I worked with oftentimes will tell me they're imposter syndrome. And I'm like, nope, not going to get that from me. And I'm also going to tell you tough stuff. I'm going to tell you when you beat yourself up for no reason. I'm going to tell you when you're just doing negative talk because you want attention. I'm going to tell you that stuff. And so I love how you talk about that's what you do with your clients and work through and how it's changed your life, because, our, we need to develop this resilient mindset, and we need to be able to understand that strategies need to be created to help us overcome these everyday challenges, because things happen, like me, you'll have a loss in your life, and I would hope nobody joins my club, but there's different things like that. So can you walk us through some thoughts on resilient mindset? Like that kind of walk us through, I'm visiting you for the first time. What are some of the things you can help me get over that negative self-talk?
Such a good question. So I'm always curious about taking that inner voice, the inner critic, or whatever you want to call that voice. Give it a name or give it a title, like your inner mean girl, inner critic. And I question, what is it trying to do? How is it trying to serve you? How is it trying to help you? And when I was first diving into this work, I had a fierce inner critic. She was so mean. And when I started this approach, at first I was like, she doesn't want anything. She's mean. I don't want her here. But when I started twisting it and asking, okay, this anxiety, this inner critic, it's here. How is it trying to help me? And sitting with that. It's natural if resistance comes up, but sit with that and just slowing it down, tuning in. And what I found for my inner critic was that she cared so much about the integrity of my work that she wanted to make sure it was truly good enough to put out into the world. And then now that I see, okay, there's this intention of wanting to be good enough, I can start working with that. And I can start disconnecting this idea that, if my work's good enough, that means I'm good enough. And these are all the different neural pathways that I didn't realize I was living out of until I started diving in. And it's so simple, but your net worth is not your worth. Your business is not you. Even your relationships are not who you are. And so when we start realizing that these thoughts, these inner thoughts that can be really negative or really heavy or just feel unsupportive, they're there for a reason. And if you can tune into what that reason is, first of all, it's going to create more of a compassion-based energy that you get to work with. All of a sudden, you're not at war with yourself inside. You're like, okay, I'm in this space. I can see that this part of me is trying to help. It's not effective. It's not great, but it's trying to help. I often compare blocks such as the inner critic to like little kids. They're like toddlers. They want to help. They want to be supportive. They want to be on your side, but they don't always know the best way to do so. And sometimes when they try to help, it's really messy. It creates a bit of chaos. It's not effective, but the intention behind it is good. And when we can see our blocks with that type of mindset and with that type of energy, they're going to naturally shift because we're not trying to push parts of ourselves away. We're not judging parts of ourselves. We're just saying, okay, I love that you want to make sure that what I put out is important and adds value. And now that I know that intention, I can take a new approach and say, okay, so when I'm in creating mode, let's make sure that it feels really good and valuable what I'm putting out there. That takes care of the intention from the inner critic. And then that way, the inner critic can be in the car, but they're no longer in the driver's seat.
I'm laughing when you say in the car, not in the driver's seat. I'm picturing it as it's this little kid in the back seat going, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, help me, help me, help me." It's like when you describe the car, because you're right. It's like that inner critic. I love that you talk about how is it trying to help me, because we allow it to like send us down that rabbit hole so often. But if we can do that stopgap, that like when I coach with my clients, and I teach underneath the PQ, the Positive Intelligence Program, and I'm like, "Where's your stop? Where's your light bulb? Turn off, turn on switch." And I'm often saying, like, name it, name that inner critic. Like when the self saboteur is coming up, when the risk taker is showing up, when the controller is showing up. Like, what are you doing to say, "No, I'll want to listen to you. Maybe I'll take a lesson from you, but you're not going to drive me, because I'm not going to let you take me down that rabbit hole." Right. And so I love that you said, you asked the question, like, how is it trying to help you? Like, how is the inner critic trying to help you? And understanding that no matter what it tells us, we are good enough. And that's the one thing I feel like oftentimes we don't think we're good enough. Like when you said our net worth is not our worth, right? So what you have in the bank, for some people, when they think about their bank account, it doesn't say what you're worth. You can have $1 million in the bank, and we've seen it. We won't talk about different people in this world. We've seen how they behave with that money, right? But you can have a penny, and you could be the most giving person in the world, and this amazing person. So it doesn't matter what's in that bank account. It's really like, how are you showing up in the world? How do you want to be remembered? One of the things, like when I coach with my clients, because especially from the people pleaser state, we want to do for everybody. We want to fix everything. Let me fix it before it happens. And if you're a parent of, like we've lost our child, Matt, our oldest one, in a tragic car accident. And we have an amazing son, Nate, who just got married. We want to be those parents that can try to stop them before they get the skin knee, but we can't. Things are going to happen. And, it's tragic that, losing a child, I would never want to be in that club. And at the same time, I have to figure out, like, what does this mean for my life? Because the inner critic in me was like, just go lay in a bed the rest of your life and cry the rest of your world away because you've lost a son. But and most people, if you're on that journey of grief and you're doing that, that's your journey, and that's the journey that you're choosing right now. And I would just say that's not what you're meant to be. And I had to like really work through that, like after everybody left, and the quietness, and taking my own coaching tools. And the ironic thing is that SHERO League that I started for everybody else, really, when I did not realize that a few years later, it was really, I started because I knew I was going to need it in a few years, right? So having that team, having those people that can lift you up. And one of the things that I went through, like when Matt was here in the physical world, my boys saw me overcome this people pleasing. Like I said, in 2015, Matt was a senior in high school and Nate was a junior or sophomore in high school. So it was very late in life that I had started saying, "No, I'm not going to do that for you. No, you have to do that for you." And if you're a parent of somebody who, is, or you have a loved one who is an addict, in some cases, it's so hard because for people pleasing, we want to fix it and stop it. And we can't. We have to want it. They have to want it. So we have to want what is our best for our life. When I work with my clients, I'm like, what do you want at life? Like, if tomorrow's not here, what do you want to be remembered by? And I often challenge my clients, I'm like, especially the people pleasers, they have a hard time with this question. If tomorrow you're not here, and at the eulogy, all your friends and family can say is what they saw you do for yourself, what are they going to say? If they're going to stand up there and say, "Oh, she volunteered this, she did that, she helped me do this," That's not what you want to remember for. Like, I'm going to remember, oh, Pearl showed up for everything. Pearl organized your sock drawer. Pearl brought the cookies to the thing. No, I want to remember for, you might have saw me sit at my front porch swing. I divorced my parents because it wasn't the energy that I wanted in my life. And I deserved better in my life. Right. So you're going to talk about the boundaries I set in my life. You're going to talk about the things I've done, like being empowered to go and start launching a book, writing a book, speaking on stages, starting a coaching career. Right. So those are the things, but when we do the hard work, when we stop letting OPT, other people's thoughts, hold us back, then we can start stepping into what I call that SHERO stuff. We can start stepping into, becoming stronger in the things we want in our life, becoming stronger, saying no to other people's thoughts, right? And then what happens, like you said, you described your anxiety, right? What happens then is you're not as stressed out. You become happier. You're this more, you're this person that doesn't wake up in the middle of the night and has to, oh my gosh, I didn't send that text off. So now you can't go back to sleep. Right. And then when that happens, you become empowered to do things like, Brittni, you started a business, right? I hold a retreat every year. I've had women come to my retreats that have businesses, thriving businesses. When they leave my retreat, some of them have closed their business because they realize, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to go make soaps. I want to go travel the world in a bus, right? I have clients like that have done that come to my retreat. So they begin empowered to do these amazing things. And what happens, if you're listening to us, this is really, really important. What happens is then you start having what I call that radiant glow up. You start showing up and glowing up in your life. You start becoming this radiant self. And people start saying, Brittni, like, you don't look stressed out anymore. How the heck, and they realize, you realize inside, I am a 3 out of 10 on my anxiety, and they realize, they'll say, did you cut your hair? Like, did you lose weight? No, I'm just stepping into who I want to be. And the beauty of all that, to wrap that with a big bow on it, is you start being that original person you wanted to be. That little girl dream that she wanted to do when she grew up, you start walking in what that is, and I know, like, we're talking about the resilient mindset. Oftentimes our mindset tells us, I don't want to take that straight path ahead. I want to go this way because I think it's better. But you know what? The shorter route is not always the best route to go. And you'll end up back on that road. I mean, can't tell you how many times I try to listen to Waze or whatever. I'm like, why did I listen to her? So I just love that you're bringing that up for us, because we deserve to have less anxiety. We deserve to be, feel that work that we have inside us. We deserve to be that SHERO, yourself. I wrote down, are you at war with yourself? Right? That was one of the things that came with. Sometimes we become at war with ourselves instead of listening to what's in our gut. And if you're a female, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you, your gut is real, because I can tell you, the night that my son passed away, I normally sit in this one spot in this couch that we have downstairs, and I moved to a different spot. And we had talked to my son like 10 minutes prior to his, we know when he passed, a timeline. And he had butt dialed us, and we called him. Now, unfortunately, Matt made the wrong decision to drink and drive. I knew he was drinking, and I knew he had my car, because he wasn't an Uber, like he said, because I checked where my car was at. And so when I moved to the other spot, I was shaking like a leaf. And my husband's like, you need to calm down. You're going to give yourself a heart attack. It wasn't a heart attack. I knew in my gut something's wrong. So I'm saying to you, especially as females, and I know men have it too, but they don't listen to it as much as they need. They're not as in tune. I don't know why God made us the way he did, but listen to it. And if your gut is telling you you're fighting with yourself, it's time to do something. It's time to make a change. It's time to get a coach. It's time to figure out what's your joy in your life. And so, Brittni, I want to talk about that too, a little bit about, what are some of the strategies that you help, or you put in place in your life to help overcome some of these everyday challenges? Because they can be big, like the loss of a child, or they can be small. Oh my gosh, I'm driving to work and there's an accident. I mean, I saw yesterday on my Facebook page, it was like, there was an accident. It only takes me 10 minutes to get there. It took me 2 hours to get home. And I'm always that kind of person, like, okay, God, what are we doing for the next 2 hours? But, not everybody can have that mindset. So walk us through, what are some of the strategies you take for some of these everyday challenges?
I would say starting off with creating a consistent routine of a way to tune internally. And it literally can be a few minutes a day. Like I'm talking 3 minutes a day. Everyone has a few minutes you can find. And so I things like going outside. It doesn't mean you have to go take a mile walk or a couple mile walk. Like just go stand on your porch and breathe fresh air for a few minutes. Or finding a meditation practice and taking 60 seconds to breathe in and out, and just little things like that. It doesn't have to be anything wild or new or big that you're adding to your life, but finding little ways to create stillness and to slow down and to let go of looking outside of yourself and just for a moment start looking internally and just being with everything that's present in the body, all of the energies and thoughts and all of it, just being there, holding space for yourself. And when you start building this, and again, like I'm not talking about adding something an hour a day. I'm talking a few minutes a day can make a massive difference because you're creating a new set point of I can take care of myself. I honor myself. I choose to show up for myself every single day. And it just starts in little ways. And then you can start experimenting like, oh, when I do breath work, I have so much energy and I get to move all this stuckness. And it's really, really useful for me. Or maybe it's you find a different meditation practice and it's like, oh, when I do a yoga flow and then sit in savasana for, I don't think I said that correctly, but when I sit with it for 10 minutes afterwards and I just breathe and meditate, then I can find stillness. Or taking a walk, like whatever it is for you, finding ways to slow down life. We are so overstimulated in every area from our phone. How many of you listening, the first thing you do when you wake up is you go through your notifications since the last time you picked up your phone, right? There's so much that we are taking in all the time. And it can take us away from it. I love that you brought up our intuition because that is one of the most powerful tools and resources that we have with us all day, every day. And it is the truest, purest form of intelligence that we can tune into. And so when we are learning to listen internally first rather than externally, I also encourage you to tune into where is your intuition showing up? How does it show up for you? Where do you feel it? And learning, can you discern, making sure it's genuine intuition and not fear-based thoughts? Does it feel heart-based? Does it light you up? Really tuning into it that way. But it starts with, like I said, creating an intentional way of creating space to listen for it. Because life is so loud, we have to start by setting up a place where we can hear it.
I was just writing around, life is so loud. Life gets so loud. It really does. And I like that you talk about like creating an intentional space. That's one of the things. I have a front porch swing and I tell all my friends that are locally, I'm right across the street from an elementary school. So when we first moved here 4 years ago, we downsized. I would see the moms that parked out front. I'm like, hey, get out of your car. Come sit in my swing. Like, you don't even have to talk to me. Like, just come sit in the swing. And I've had people show up in my swing and my Pearl, there's some other friend, there's a lady, I'm like, just let her sit. Just don't mess with her. Let her have her time. Right. And that's just it's just a way of like creating that space. Like you said, getting outside, doing all of that, because, we have to be with ourselves so that we can show up for those others that we want to show up the way we want to. Because like I said, if we don't do that, we're not showing up 100% of the time for us. We cannot, they talk about filling a cup. I truly believe that you got to overflow your cup for yourself before you can even give to somebody else. And so I love these strategies. I love that you talked about, having a new set points. I think if this is something you haven't done before, you're listening to us, just start somewhere. It's just set that point, create a new set point, go stand outside, like Brittni said, and just yell, scream, take it all in with a cup of coffee. You don't have to talk to a neighbor that walks by. Just be like, I'm going to take in the fresh air, because you may not have that fresh air tomorrow. And if you're listening to us and you're somebody who works the long hours at their job, or you're overwhelmed with the kids, or it's just life you feel like is causing your anxiety to be, high on the 10, I'm just going to tell you that tomorrow somebody's going to slide into your job if you're not here. Your family's going to figure out how to thrive. It's not going to be the same without you, but they're going to learn how to cook. They're going to learn how to clean. But the bottom line is what they're going to miss the most is the time they did not have with you. So set the boundaries, set the goals. And if it's something you need help with, like I said, you can check out our SHERO League. We'll share Brittni's information as well, but reach out to somebody and get help. And it's the most important thing you can do for yourself. And speaking of which, Brittni, would you share with everybody how they can reach you, where they can reach out to you at?
Absolutely. You can find me over on my website, brittnicosgrove.com, or come say hi to me over on Instagram at brittni.cosgrove. I would love to hear what you're up to in the world, how I can support, what you're excited for 2025, anything like that. And then I also want to share with you, because this is just such a perfect segue from what we've talked about, I have a finding stillness meditation I want to offer to the listeners here, where in just a few minutes, it will help you to slow it down, exactly what I was talking about, so that you can tune inward and you can really feel what happens when I create space internally before externally. But come say hi. I love people doing what they love. I think that right now this world is in such a unique position, and I am in full support of everyone tuning inward and working on themselves to create impacts externally. It's always inner and then outer.
I love that's so true. And like this year, my theme is my journey. It's not, I don't really have a word. It's just I have a theme this year. It's like my journey. What am I doing today that affects my journey? If I say yes to you on that, is that going to affect my journey? That I've created for myself this year. So if you're listening to us and you're not sure where your journey is going, we're going to put everything Brittni said in the show notes. Go grab her freebie, because having a great mindset is the first place you can start to really start focusing on what is your journey and to do that reset. So thank you, Brittni, for joining us. Okay. But before we let you go, our listeners are going, where's the cards? So we have these amazing cards. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. I get nothing back from this. My really good friend, Carol Gill, and her friend, Diane Allen, put these together. So I'm going to shuffle them. There's 70 cards. If you're listening to us or watching, you can journal on them. You can just have your phrase for the day. Take a picture, put it in your phone, whatever you want to do. It's a great thing to do. But Brittni, you tell me when to stop, and we'll have you answer the cards.
Stop.
All right. So yours says, oh, this is a big one. How do other people describe me? How do other people describe you? Now, remember, we were talking about other people's thoughts, right? But how do they describe you since you've taken control of your thoughts?
Ooh. Something that does come up frequently, especially with those that I'm closest with, is they describe me as someone who helps them see past their limitations. Even with my friends, I'm asking them questions and I'm pushing them and I'm challenging the thoughts that I hear, and in gentle ways, just kind of poking with permission, but always in service of helping everyone step up and out of boxes that they put themselves in. And that is something where I hear that. I hear that from the people I surround myself with, is they value so much the conversations where they can feel my belief in the essence of who they are. Yeah, not in what they do, not in the external things, but just that they are a loving being first and foremost. And then from there, that they are infinite and expansive. And they feel that belief from me, even in just casual conversations.
So I will say that you guys, if you're listening to us, if Brittni, I know you're going to be here for a long, long time, but I could just see 3 or 4 of your friends standing out there saying that about you, because you exude that through the screen. If you're not watching us, go watch us on YouTube as well. You can find us on YouTube. You can like and subscribe below if you're on YouTube. But if you're not watching right now, go look us up on YouTube with Soulful Selfcare Conversations, because you will see Brittni's beautiful smile. And I could truly see that what you've exuded today with all of us, I could truly see your friends sharing that with you. So I want to thank you for joining us. And if you want more of what we talked about today on the SHERO League, all you have to do is follow below. There's a link below. You can check us out, but you can also just go to wsliving.com. Everything is right there at your handy dandy fingertips. But I just want to remind all of you that, as we said today, you come into this world, you're this beautiful oyster. People are going to stay, other people's thoughts are going to come into the world. But you have to work on not letting it control your thoughts and open up your own show, and you're going to find your inner pearly greatness. So I hope today you guys go out, you have a soulful self-care day, and make it a great day. Oh my gosh, you guys, was that not so much fun? every time I do these, the time just flies. The conversation is such a great soulful self-care conversation. And today was no different. And one of the things I walked away with, I'm looking at notes here, if you're watching me, is that we do have that inner critic. And to have that resilient mindset, we have to find ways to sage that inner critic. We have to find ways to not let that thought come up and sabotage or take away and judge ourselves. And so finding things like what Brittni was sharing with us, like, find a way to start with one thing, and that is go outside, be with yourself. What is it that you want to do? What is something that you want to start working on? Maybe the first thing you need to do is create your joy list. It's something that in our SHERO League, we talk about what brings you joy. Like, what is the thing that brings you joy? And pick one thing on that list to start working on that list. So if it's something you want to learn more about, if you want to learn more about the SHERO League and how these amazing group of women get together and start their week off on an amazing, beautiful note, supporting one another on the highs, on the lows, and everything in between. And it's also a great way to begin your next week. We would love to have you join us. Just click the link below or go to wsliving.com and find the SHERO League, and we would love to have you join us. Have a great day.